Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of October 20th, 2024. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological week, without a doubt. Big moves happening in the sky now. Boys, at a very special time. And it truly is so special now. Powerful energies are with us. On Tuesday, the sun moves into the sign of Scorpio. Happy birthday to all the Scorpios out there. And right around this time, every year, we kick off Scorpio season. And Scorpio is an energy that represents going beyond the veil, going beyond the illusion, the glamour, and even what it is that we might want or think that we want, and trying to identify a deeper truth hidden within. It is about being willing to be brave in how it is that we go about seeking the truth, knowing that whatever might transpire, we really are going to be okay. It's the sincere desire here, the honesty that we bring, that helps us to uncover a deep strength when we're willing to look at what other people might otherwise reject and still find beauty and purpose and meaning within it. And there are different ways to go about seeking truth and striving to understand, but I think we are going to be like deep diving into Scorpio season right away. And one of the reasons I say that is because just before the sun changes signs, while still in the sign of partnership with the sun in the sign of Libra, in its last moments in Libra, it is going to be the sun that will connect in a conversation of tension with Pluto, the modern ruling planet of the sign of Scorpio. And to me, this represents the intensity and the messiness that can sometimes be what Scorpio energy is about, coming right to the surface. And then the sun changes signs, and it's like whatever it is that felt so convoluted, that felt so complex, starts to look a whole lot more clear as we see the deeper motivations and what we can do to change things at their core and at their center. And so, as the sun will spend its last day in the sign of Libra for the year, it is here that we look at partnerships and alliances, and we look at diplomacy and how it is that we relate to others, how it is that we conceptualize others. But it also plays out in an understanding of a more profound, larger sense of who I am and how it relates to whoever I relate to most in terms of the we, and who they are in terms of who you are. And so it set up this sense of I'm on one side, you're on the other. And what that means is one side's got to be good and one side's got to be bad. But if Pluto shows us anything, it is to understand shades of motivation. Pluto is an interesting energy, as is the energy of Scorpio, the sign connected to that modern ruling planet of Pluto. While on the one hand, it is emotional power games, power struggles, and also the kind of power games that aren't necessarily about emotions at all, that are very calculated and very cold. It is also a sign that has to do with psychology and psychoanalytics, because it invites us to look at our own deeper motivations in any situation we might find ourselves in. That desire for truth can have us going down different paths. The desire for truth can motivate a detective, for example, to uncover the mysteries of a wrongdoing. The energy of Scorpio is an energy that is associated with occult practices of all kinds, including tarot and magical practice. And for some people, the way they practice astrology as well could be considered an occult practice. We get these powerful energies that play together, and it's like we're heading into Scorpio season with an awareness of how other people add to our lives, how other people bring messiness into our lives, and how it is that certain alliances have become really complex to the point of being tiring even. And the toll that they've taken on us starts to feel more evident. It can feel hard to have those honest conversations with others, and where it is that people are coming at certain interactions with a sense of wanting elevation, of wanting to align with a higher consciousness. Well, it's from that space that profound healing can take place, but it comes by facing our own difficulties, the sort of walls that we've set up within ourselves. There's a famous quote by the Sufi poet and mystic, the legendary Rumi, and it says that your task is not to find love, but rather it is to identify the barriers within yourself that keep you from it. This is a paraphrase here, of course. It is ultimately the energy of Scorpio that invites us to approach that understanding with love and with a sense of illumination. What are those walls and how might they be illuminated within ourselves? And I think this concept of the barriers we have set up to love itself is going to come into focus. Libra is an energy that has to do with one-on-one exchanges and partnerships, and a special emphasis on love partnerships, marriages, for example. But it's also about how willing we are to see ourselves in others. And that is the greatest form of love that we can give. I've learned long ago that listening is a powerful form of love that we give other people by allowing and creating a safe space from which they can share, and to affirm that, well, for somebody to feel heard can be one way in which you facilitate healing, but they leave that interaction feeling that spirit of love well after the interaction is over. Now, what happens when we find ourselves in a situation where maybe it doesn't feel that loving, or maybe it's listening or asking questions in a way that don't necessarily feel safe? And is that really about the other person, or is it about ourselves? Is it that we're coming up against the walls within ourselves that we have built? Or is it that we are identifying the wisdom of those walls, perhaps after a really long time? If you consider that the entire universe and us being a manifestation, an expression, and an entire embodiment of the universe itself within us, well, if you consider that the universe is wise and loving, well, then those very barriers themselves, they come from a place of wisdom. They're ultimately set up to protect ourselves, and in our own way, as part of our own deep unconscious psychological reasoning, they become part of keeping us safe. Those walls themselves are a form of self-love that we might practice. But what happens when we get to a point where perhaps those walls just aren't working for us anymore? We're getting to the truth of a given situation and identifying what really needs to happen, and not necessarily based on the opinion or interaction with another person, but what we come to see within ourselves in that moment of interaction. Well, that's going to help us to identify healthy barriers, healthy walls, and where it is that walls might have begun as a form of self-preservation, which is a form of self-love, but they just aren't working for us anymore. They're keeping us from that sense of and the type of love that we really desire. Now, I know so far I've been emphasizing romantic love, but that isn't just the case. Love takes many forms, many shapes, and sometimes it involves other people, but sometimes it's about our relationship with ourselves. Being willing to trust ourselves, for example, our creative impulse, enough to go another way. Being willing to look more deeply within ourselves as to the life that we have, but where it is that it's lacking, that we haven't demonstrated self-trust enough to take steps to move our lives in a direction that might be more rewarding. And to be willing to exercise self-trust, well, that is a profound form of self-love. Now, what are the barriers that have kept us from embracing that path of taking a chance on our own behalf and knowing that whatever the outcome might be, we are going to be okay? Where is it that perhaps we have certain people in our lives, and even though we know that there is love there, we also are coming to understand that we may need balance. We may need a sense of being able to put certain alliances, certain relationships in their right place. And there are ways to do that that aren't necessarily about being anything other than absolutely kind. Now, I think this Sun square Pluto, Sun moving into Scorpio energy, a wonderful way to understand this is represented by a meme I just saw the other day, and it says, "Let us forget with generosity those who could not love us." There are so many ways to interpret that particular sentence. But regardless of how you interpret it, what words you choose to emphasize within it, ultimately that is an act of generosity towards yourself. It is being willing to say, okay, yes, whatever, and you don't have to let go of anything you don't want to let go of, but perhaps being more generous with yourself might just be understanding the cost of not forgiving, not forgetting, or at the very least, not releasing. And just allowing the past to be whatever it is that it needed to be, so that now you can take greater ownership for spreading generosity upon yourself, knowing that you don't need to carry those burdens anymore. This journey of the sun moving through Scorpio, as illuminating as it is going to be, as to the pains that we're carrying, the resentments that we're holding, boy, that's going to stir really strongly with the sun square Pluto. We're going to see all those resentments come to the surface. But ultimately, on the other side of it, with that sun in Scorpio, wow, there's this sense of clarity as to what our work just might be, and what type of alliances actually deserve our attention and our energy in this given present moment. Now, the rewards of that work are likely to be evident very quickly at this time. We are going to have Mars, the ancient ruling planet of Scorpio, speaking in harmony with Uranus. This represents an important moment as part of the larger Mars retrograde season that we recently began. Now, Mars is newly in shadow. It was earlier in October when Mars stepped into shadow. There will be a Mars retrograde special horoscope in the weeks ahead, so be on the lookout for that. This connection with Uranus is going to be repeated. This is the first exact alignment between Mars and Uranus as part of a larger dance that Mars will be doing, activating Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn. These are the sweet spots. There are some challenging spots as part of this larger Mars retrograde season, and we will talk about it every step of the way. I'll be here to talk about it. And yeah, right now we get the first harmonious connection to Uranus. This is one of the moments that represents how good it can actually be to be in this season. We will have another exact connection between Mars and Uranus taking place in January. And then the third and final connection will take place in April. And that will be just before Mars leaves shadow at the beginning of May. And so you can see here, there's this larger dance playing out. Mars in the sign of Cancer is when most of the sweet spots are being hit. Mars will spend part of this retrograde season in the sign of Leo as well. And that's where two of the three oppositions between Mars and Pluto, the more intense part of this larger journey that we're in, are set to take place. But coming back to right here, right now, and us in this moment, it is a powerful time, because it is in this particular moment that we find some of the freedom, some of the insight, the promise of the larger Mars retrograde season, which is in part to help us to understand our own motivations and those things that push our buttons, right? That feel as if they evoke a strong reaction, where it is that we might respond to a certain stimuli without necessarily being conscious of how we're being triggered. But with this beautiful alignment to Uranus, we gain the insight that we need, so we get to decide if we like our responses and if this is the way we want to go. Now, outside of that, we have Mars in the sign of Cancer, an energy that has to do with home and family and patriotism and country and national identities. And this beautiful connection with Uranus is positively liberating. It's an expansion of an understanding of what families are, of what home is. It is a sense of feeling empowered by an evolving understanding of national identities. We might see this around the world taking place in different places now. Mars also represents an awareness of our own power, where we have it, where we don't, and where it is that we are best off surrendering whatever worry we have, because we really don't have power over a given situation. But it is Mars connecting with Uranus in harmony that helps us to identify new ways to use our power to move towards the change we desire. Now, I see Uranus, which is sometimes conceptualized as the higher vibration of Mercury. Well, that can represent fast moving, and in this case, with that harmonious connection, some good news that might be able to find us now. And it is in our response that we're able to magnify a set of circumstances that lead to positive change and feelings of liberty, feelings of freedom that come from releasing ourselves of circumstances that may feel like we've been carrying them for way too long. I think that's part of that Sun square Pluto vibration. It's about showing us where we have been carrying some baggage that we really are now being affected by in ways that we no longer need to be. And it is Mars and the action we take now that liberates us and excites us for the future we can see ahead if we'll take some small step towards it. I think we're likely to step into this week sort of with a plan, having an understanding of the right thing to do and what we want to focus on and what progress we want to make at this time. And that is because Mercury will trine Saturn on Tuesday. And that can be useful energy to use where it is that we're hoping to take action or have a conversation or cultivate new ideas that we hope will lead to greater stability. Saturn is always about doing the right thing, doing the responsible thing, the mature thing. And where we do that, and where it is that our words are guided by that, as is the case with Mercury, well, this is going to represent one of those moments where we say the right thing at the right moment that helps us to affirm our own sense of self-respect, our own sense of maturity. Mercury is in the sign of Scorpio throughout this week, and that beautiful connection to Saturn suggests we understand how to cultivate our mind, to focus our minds on the outcomes we desire to manifest. But more than that, we understand what's worth saying and what isn't worth saying. And even though on the other side of that energy, because we get that square of the Sun and Pluto on the same day, well, we might find ourselves just kicking ourselves and saying, I should have said it and I should have let that person know. I should have just, right? We can say that to ourselves, but it's important to recognize where it is that not only would that not have had us feeling very good about ourselves, but it would have involved jumping to certain conclusions or making certain assumptions that would not have served the outcomes that we want. And one of the outcomes that we always want is that we want to feel good about ourselves. We want to affirm a sense of ourselves, our power, with a sense of clarity. And we want to be pleased with ourselves. And it's hard to do that when it is that we're not treating other people very well. Mercury trine Saturn is going to invite us to look at how it is we are actually speaking with others to ensure that we do so in a way that affirms a sense of our own responsibility that we have in any given interaction, and knowing that ultimately that's actually the smart way to go because it's more likely to get us to positive outcomes, especially in the fullness of time. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It is a powerful and meaningful astrological moment. Well, I'm going to say Mars sextile Uranus. I love this energy for us. This is a harmonious vibration playing out, and it is about surprises that spur us towards action. It's about identifying where we have power, finding peace with where it is we don't, and deciding that we are going to work towards, put our effort towards what it is we desire to be different in our lives. This is a harnessing of the will towards a set of circumstances that bring us a sense of freedom, of liberty. And what is the greatest freedom, really? It is the freedom to be the self. The great thing about Mars sextile Uranus is that it invites us to identify where we may have power, where we could take action, where we can trust ourselves, know ourselves, decide on what energies within ourselves we're going to align with, and experience positive liberation as a result. If Mars is anything, it is embodied. But if Uranus is anything, it is pure thought. It is pure idea. I mean, it's on the next wavelength, the future wavelength, if you will. And it is this beautiful energy of Mars sextile Uranus that invites us to find a bridge between what it is that feels we are automatically responding to, but also what a life that feels lighter and freer and more exciting, what might be for us, and to do the work that not only helps us to get there, but to also understand our own power, our own responses are a key part of shaping a future that we love. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys, and to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded exclusive video scopes for each and every sign for as low as just $3 a month, with choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity Publications has an exciting Halloween sale happening right now. You've got 1 week to order your signed copies of any of my books, and they come with special gifts as well. Now, if you are one of the friends and fans who's asked me to send them signed copies of books, well, here we are. We got them now. If you are one of the people who knows people who love my work, thank you to each and every one of you, and you want to gift them a signed copy of one of my books, please consider ordering now, because we are going to have one more shipment of books that goes out at the end of November after Cyber Monday. But those books, I cannot guarantee that they will arrive before Christmas or the holiday season, depending on whatever it is that you celebrate. But they're much, much, much more likely to arrive before the holiday season for you if it is that you order them now and they ship out on Halloween. Now, having said that, it is going to be at this time that you get free gifts, all kinds of bonuses coming depending on the book that you get. And the packages, they're going to be put together by me. And so I'm really looking forward to sending those out. The announcement just went out the other day, and a whole bunch of you just came in and started buying up books. And I'm so, so grateful for that. So thank you. So if you're one of the people who wants a signed copy of one of my books for yourself, or someone else, and you want it to come with all kinds of bonuses, digital and physical stuff, well, sign on to synchronicitypublications.com. You've got about a week here to place that order, and I just thank you. Thank you so much for your love of my work. I am so very grateful for it. Synchronicity University presents an incredible jam-packed November. We have fully 4 programs coming this November, starting very soon. And as we start this week, you've got a very limited time left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class to learn from these incredible teachers. I'm going to start with my course. I'm going to be teaching on life cycles. So we are looking at the Saturn return, the Jupiter return, the Uranus return. We're looking at the Chiron return, as well as major aspects of Neptune and Pluto. Now, these key transits, along with not just the return that we like to look at, but along with things like the Saturn oppositions, the Saturn squares, the Jupiter oppositions, and the Uranus opposition, and so much more. We're going to be looking at what happens at given ages for everyone out there. And as we hit certain ages in our lives, there are certain things that do tend to happen in terms of our own growth, in terms of the changes, in terms of what we feel and what our hopes might be. It is, for example, right around 14 that we have the Saturn opposition. And this is where we come up against limits and we become aware of limitations that are there. And this is happening simultaneously with the Uranus sextile. So that's why right around 14, kids, you might remember yourself. I mean, I was very, very rebellious. I was like a rebel without a clue, actually, my poor parents. But yeah, there's that rebellious side, but then there's also that sense of needing limits that's there. Think about it in your own adult life, right? The Saturn return, lots of people like to talk about that. That happens right around 28 and a half. We know it's over once we hit 30. Well, what happens after the Saturn return? There are two really important transits that happen. So one is the fact that as soon as the Saturn return is over, our Uranus trine starts to kick in. And this is where Uranus starts to speak in harmony with the position of our natal Uranus. So allowing that transition into adulthood that the Saturn return represents leads us to a newfound freedom and sense of self and authenticity. But it is just years after that return, right around 35 is when we get the Saturn square. And the Saturn square that happens 35, 36 years old, I think that might just be more important than the Saturn return because it is the Saturn square that asks us, is this worth the sacrifice? Is it worth the time you're putting in or not? Is this really going to help you to manifest what you're hoping? But also, is this fueling healthy self-respect for you or not? It is a big reality check moment for us. And it is quickly followed up by the Jupiter return, our third Jupiter return that happens in a lifetime, happens right after that, and so much more. So you can see that there are these big turning point moments in a life, and that's what we're going to be looking at over the course of this 5-week journey this November. And you've got a limited time left to choose your tuition rate to learn from me all about life cycles and so much more. Only at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University presents the brilliant Tiffany HARELIK. Tiffany HARELIK is going to teach about being a mystic, awakening the mystic within. This is about magnifying your intuition, your psychic abilities, and so much more. She'll bring an understanding of astrology, but there's also lots of practical exercises and tools that you can use right now to align with your own energy of being a mystic and a psychic in your own life now. Tiffany is bringing such positive and open energy. She's absolutely brilliant. You'll see her on my channel very soon with the interview I do with her. But I think that this topic is just one that so many people are going to get so much out of. So this is a course that you don't want to miss. You've got a limited time left to choose your tuition rate as well, to learn from Tiffany HARELIK and her very wise, insightful, positive energy, bringing forward the psychic within you, the mystic within you, and so much more. Only at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University presents JANÉT Jones. You've seen her on my channel lots of times, and JANÉT is back, and she is teaching a class with some advanced techniques for those of you who want to take your astrological practice to the next level to really kick it up. JANÉT is going to help you to learn about Duads and Decans and so much more as part of the class that she is going to be teaching this November. You've got a limited time left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class to learn from JANÉT Jones. Now, as I said, you've seen JANÉT on my channel before. She is I like to call her a goddess, but she is the maven behind Spiritual Gangster Certified, and it is a huge platform online. And she shares all kinds of spiritual wisdoms and memes, and it's funny and it's entertaining. She's also got a YouTube channel as well. I know that her really big presence is over on Facebook, but her YouTube channel, that's where I discovered her, and I loved her work right away. I was like, oh my God, this is a brilliant astrologer. She is really good. And it was right around the same time that I started interacting with her on Facebook. And of course, you know, she was one of those people that I said, hey, do you want to make a video for my channel? She's made a bunch of videos for my channel. Hey, do you want to teach at Synchronicity University? She's taught before at Synchronicity University. And she's just perfectly primed for her own course now. So as I said, advanced techniques. If you watch one of her video breaking down a celebrity chart, you will see that she really knows her stuff. She's able to dive deep and have an understanding. And these advanced techniques are going to take your practice to the next level. You can sign up right now. You've got a limited time left to choose your tuition rate to learn from JANÉT Jones at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University has an absolutely incredible speaker series, and we've got a mystical theme, a haunting theme taking place in time for Scorpio season. I'm so excited about this bunch of astrologers, and actually, these are all people that you have seen before at Synchronicity University. They are some of your favorites here that are coming back, and I'm going to start with my dear friend Michael Barwick, as I like to call him. My personal astrologer, my personal Jupiter. He is so insightful and wise. And I know, like I said, you've seen him on my channel so many times. We have these conversations online and I like to share them. The most recent one was about the Mars-Pluto opposition that's going to kick into gear in November in particular. And a lot of you have been getting a lot out of that. So I'm so glad that so many of you appreciate his wisdom. Having said that, he's going to teach a class on astrological magic and gemstones and so much more. And he is very passionate about gemstones in his own practice and in his own life. And so this can be some remarkable energy to tap into, to find a sense of being able to harness spiritual energies and direct them towards the manifestations you desire, the happiness you desire, and so much more. You will be learning gemstones and astrological magic from Michael Barwick. Mark McGowan, reality TV star, is going to be teaching on how to be a medium. He's a celebrated medium, actually. He's been on TV, on reality TV in the US as a medium, and now he is with Synchronicity University. He's also begun a year-long project here on my YouTube channel, where every month he's going to be helping you to understand the signs differently with greater depth and nuance. And this actually took place, like this whole series kicked off because I'd been chatting with him and he was telling me what he thinks about Cancer because my rising sign is Cancer. And he gave me this whole other way to understand the sign that I just hadn't even considered. I was like, wow, really? You should make a video about that. Hey, why don't you make a whole series of videos for the next year? Every month you can put something out there that helps us to grow in our understanding of the signs. And so you've already seen how wise he is, how insightful it is on my YouTube channel. And this, how to be a medium, he's the perfect person to teach it. Natalia Maria is coming back to Synchronicity University, and she's going to help us to understand Pluto with greater depth, with greater nuance through the mythologies of Odin. So this is a whole other celestial being, if you will. I mean, rooted in archetype, of course, but so much of how we understand the mythologies around the planets, for me, are rooted in Greek mythology. But here we're looking at like Norse mythology, right? We're looking at a whole other part of the world and how they conceptualize these archetypal energies. Well, she helps us to understand what Pluto transits are like based on understanding with greater depth how, when you're going through Pluto transit, you're experiencing some of the things that we know Odin experienced. So this is going to be a fascinating class to be part of. Bear River, award-winning astrologer, is back at Synchronicity University, and he's going to be bringing more astrological magic. The last time he taught a class, it was oriented around magic. You can pick that up as well for as low as just $5 a class. As an add-on over at synchronicityuniversity.com. That's when he looked at like the days of the week and the type of magic associated with the different days of the week. But this class is astrological magic and tapping into the power of the ancestors, understanding ancestral magic and how it shows up in the stars, in the skies, in the planets. It is fascinating to consider. Our spiritual connection to the cosmos is such a personal thing and so much more through his talk. And Ursula Stockner is back. I love her so much. She's taught courses before. She's taught classes before at Synchronicity University. She's a Jungian analyst, and she's going to help us to understand the symbolism of the tarot more deeply as well. And she's taught like tarot workshops before. So this is a very powerful thing for her to be bringing. It'll help you to understand your own tarot deck, to look at it differently and more deeply, to enhance your practice there. So you can see we've got an incredible lineup at the speaker series this November at synchronicityuniversity.com. You've got a little time left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class to learn from these brilliant astrologers. Links are in the description below. And thank you. Thank you so much for this moment with you. Thank you for your trust. I'm so grateful for it. Stay tuned for short horoscopes. Thank you so much for all the wonderful feedback, encouragement, positivity, enthusiasm that you have for those short horoscopes. As you may know, I've been doing them for the last few weeks. I used to do them like years ago. And now as they are back, it is as we step further into the week that I do share them as their own standalone, but they are ultimately an excerpt from this larger week ahead look. So thank you for those of you who just watched those. Thank you to those of you who watch this whole thing. Whatever part of your sacred journey I am in, I am truly so grateful for it. For this week's short horoscopes, I'm going to focus on Mars squaring the sun, and then the sun immediately changing signs, moving into the sign of Scorpio, and what that means for you in your sign. Well, that's coming up right now. Thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy. Tuesday is a jam-packed astrological day. We've got the sun at the very end of the sign of partnership, the sign of Libra, connecting in a conversation of tension with Pluto just before kicking off Scorpio season on the same day. This connection with Pluto is so intriguing. It is Pluto that is in its last days, its last couple of weeks in the sign of Capricorn. And what that means particularly is, as we've had planets move through the sign of partnership, Libra, they have since 2008 been squaring off. There's been this tension between larger power, tradition, structures, and what it is that we might want from others, what healthy and meaningful partnerships look like to us, and what we're looking for in other people. Well, all of that has felt complex or maybe hard to come by. Just when we felt like we had somebody we connected with, well, it feels like the trust is gone. And those of us who have found and remained in healthy romantic partnerships and marriages, well, we might have found that it was other partnerships that felt at key moments like they were just sort of withering away, or sometimes going away in a sea of drama and a performance and everything, as Pluto likes to really do things up. And for others, there might have been certain alliances that you recognized were toxic, and either they were hard to resist or you felt like you just had to find a way to get along as you were biding your time in order to get to a better place in your own life. Well, regardless of what that situation was for you, this is one of the last times we're going to have big energy like this, speaking to how we as a collective are understanding our one-on-one alliances. Once the sun changes signs, kicking off Scorpio season, happy birthday to the Scorpios out there. Around this time every year, we start a month where we are delving into the mysteries, what is hidden, and we're seeking to understand the truest motivations within. The higher understanding of the sign of Scorpio is to turn over and look at what others might reject and find beauty within it nonetheless. But for every high, there's a low, and the lower vibration of Scorpio, well, it has to do with manipulation and power games. At least with the sun in Scorpio, we're able to see it and get to decide if they're worth playing. All of us are going to find one area of life holds some sense of complicated connections with another person before giving way to a shift of focus and a sense of lightness and illumination that we are going to hold for the month ahead as our own attention takes on different priorities. Now, all of us are going to find these energies speaking to us in personal ways, depending on our sun, moon, and rising sign. You want to take all three into consideration and synthesize the information. Having said that, there are details detailed horoscopes on my YouTube channel and over at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Aries, partnerships, love, it could feel like you are at a crossroads. There's all this complexity and emotion rising to the surface. For most, this is going to be romantic. For some, it'll be business. Regardless of what takes place, you very quickly are able to get to the point of understanding what's really going on. Is it you? Is it them? Is it that certain alliances have served their purpose, or is it that they deserve more effort? Your answers are going to be uniquely your own. Taurus, there is drama in the workplace. I'm sorry to say there are toxic people there possibly. This could also be an obsessive desire to change your life in a real way, whether it is change what you're doing for work or change your health-related practices. All of that might stir very strongly for you now. But the thing with Pluto is it's probably not a surprise. If you know there's somebody toxic there, they're just going to be a little bit more active, especially right around Tuesday. For all that, though, your focus will change very quickly, and you start paying attention to matters of love and partnership, whether it's aligning with the right people for shared prosperity, or it is actually connecting on a heart level with the partners that are there or the partners that you want. It is the month ahead where you're going to prioritize meaningful connections. Gemini, romance, flirtation, and what the heart truly wants in every area of life. And that is going to feel like something you are aching for, fighting for, reaching for. There could be an uncomfortable flirtation that ultimately serves as a catalyst moment, regardless of what actually happens on the surface, or you might find yourself flirting with somebody and you see very quickly, whoa, this could be messy, but it's kind of irresistible. For all that, though, whatever might happen, it is the sun changing signs that invites you to shift your focus to your daily life, to look at how you're actually living. Whether it is that you want to do something really well, you want to focus in on your work, there's more activity there, or whether it is that you are learning to take the best of care of you, there's a sense of illumination now on what self-love could be for you now. Cancer, home, family of origin. This is where the drama is right about now. Now, there might be a very strong desire on your part to be home, to go home. It could be that you're wanting to buy, sell, move, or attract a new roommate, and it feels like a daunting prospect, and you're trying to figure out how to make it come together. Regardless, though, this might just represent a moment that comes and goes rather quickly that ultimately represents your own desire, but it could also be that you feel a need to be home in some way. Once it is that the sun changes signs, well, this is where you're that much more inclined to want to focus on what it is that genuinely makes you happy. Matters of romance, flirtation, joy, fun, and doing things that are creatively fulfilling are going to become a greater priority. Leo, siblings, cousins, neighbors, that's where the drama is. But again, with Pluto, it tends to not be a surprise. If you know that one of these people is particularly dramatic, well, some of that might kick up right about now. Pluto invites you to look at what power you have, but also where you are powerless as part of affecting whatever journey they choose to be on. For all that, though, this could be a time when you are feeling that much more motivated to affect positive change in the lives of one of these people now. It is going to be the sun changing signs moving into the foundation of your chart, which invites you to go home, to be home, buying, selling, moving, parents, all of this becomes highlighted for you. And this is a time when you might be spending more time on your own, cultivating a sense of a project or something meaningful to you. If you have a home-based business, that is certainly going to get a lot of your energy in the month ahead. Virgo, money you earn, money you spend, self-love, self-esteem, that's where the drama is right about now. And so, yeah, there might be a moment when you have to make a choice. What's worth the money and what isn't? What's worth doing for money and what are you no longer willing to do? But also, yeah, where it comes to spending, where are you going to put those finances or not? That is a decision, and it shows you something about what you value. This could also be when you're asking yourself some really important questions. Some of you out there are not going to experience this energy financially at all. It's going to be more oriented around asking yourself what healthy self-love looks like for you to ensure you live up to it. Once the sun changes signs, it is all about siblings, cousins, neighbors, community involvement. It's here that there's an uptick of busyness, a desire to be present with these types of people and environments feels especially strong, as well as your awareness of synchronistic moments, putting you in the right place at the right time, connecting with the right person can make all the difference. Libra, identity, priorities, who you know yourself to be, what matters to you most and first, with the sun spending its last moments in your sign, squaring off with Pluto. This might just represent a stressful moment. It might represent a moment that feels like it reaches very deep within you at this time as part of that frustration that might be there. It is about you getting in touch with what is true for you, who you really are, and staying in alignment with it instead of sacrificing something that feels like it would be to betray yourself. Once the sun changes signs for the month ahead, you're more focused on matters of finances, money you earn, money you spend, may take on greater priority, but there's also a sense of bright new beginnings and possibilities where it comes to abundance on offer to you now. Scorpio, so much is stirring within your soul, psyche, and spirit, especially with the sun connecting with your modern ruling planet, Pluto. This can be a profound frustration that you can't put your finger on. This could also be a difficult sense of needing to accept some karmic closures. But as soon as the sun moves into your sign, you kick off your birthday month, and you will find yourself feeling a lot better very quickly. It is a brand new beginning where you get to understand who you really are and live it that much more fully. Sagittarius, friends bring the drama right about now. And whether it is that a friend really needs you and you feel like you really have to be there, whether it is you're trying to affect positive change in their life, or whether it is that they're just needlessly bringing a lot of intense moments into your life that you just don't need right now, well, those are parts of what might be happening now. This could play out in a professional group endeavor as well, as you're deciding who stays, who goes, and whether or not you want to continue being involved there. Regardless, it is going to be very quickly that your focus changes and turns inward. It becomes a lot more about what's happening within you on levels of soul, psyche, and spirit. You kick off a month where your dreams become especially vivid and you feel yourself connecting to source that much more. Capricorn, bosses and career, that's where the drama is for you now. And if you know that you have a boss who can get toxic sometimes, well, some of that tendency might kick off in the first couple days of the week. But having said that, this could also be your own ambition, your own desire, some deadline you're trying to meet, something you're really trying to make happen that could feel very much on the surface for you. For some, it may feel as if you're really struggling to connect with a sense of purpose now for your life. Now, regardless of what that is for you, understand that we are going to have very quickly the sun changing signs, which means this just might represent a fleeting moment. And once the sun changes gears, it becomes a lot more about social events, connecting with other people through friendship, through group endeavors. You are about to feel your social calendar just light up as you feel yourself that much more supported by others. Aquarius, long distance travel, immigration, citizenship, higher learning, and legal matters. Well, it is these now that might be needing your attention, needing your focus, whether it is you're really, really trying to get somewhere, you're really, really trying to get a matter to come to a close. Well, this is where there may be some worry, and yet there's also effort that can help you to transform those circumstances for the better now. Once the sun switches gear, it is about you looking up, thinking long-term and big picture, thinking about your career, your purpose, and feeling a pathway ahead illuminated for you now. Pisces, profound change, truth, a transformation, and financial institutions. It could be that you just need to pay attention to a matter having to do with a loan or some credit, or you're really trying to secure funding for something you're really hoping to move towards. For all that, though, this may not play out financially at all. And if it does, it might just represent a moment that comes and goes rather quickly. This could be oriented around you understanding where it is that you're not living in alignment with what you know to be true, what it is to authentically be you, where you've been sort of dragging your heels and carrying on too long. Well, now it's like you're at this moment where you're ready to make a choice, go another way, which ultimately allows you to live that much more fully in this lifetime, being more truly you. Now, if you don't know what that is just yet, don't worry, you've got a whole month to figure it out. Thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.